Everybody, welcome to PintheQ Podcast. We are in Southwall, which is Monmouth County, episode 8. I'm excited to do this one. I say that every time, but I truly am excited to do this every time we do it.
Very excited.
Pretty nice house.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the black over red.
Thank you.
That's always been a big push for me. I like that.
Yeah, it's been tradition here.
It's always
black over red. Yeah.
Ah, very nice. Very nice. So, Chief, why don't you tell us who you are?
I am John Sahatjian. I am a member here since 2000, December 2000. I was the chief for 7 years. I just got done in December 31st was my last day. So
Nice.
I'm back to being a
black hat.
Yeah, black hat.
Yeah, that takes a little getting used to.
It's definitely a lot of getting used to.
Yeah, it's only been a few days though.
Yeah, I've only been on one call. So.
All right, good. It's off to a good start.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. So, so you started in 2000.
Yep.
Okay. What got you into this?
When I was in high school, I went to Wall High School. My friend Bill Newberry, who's now the fire administrator for District 1 in the other side of town, sent out a letter that said, you know, do you want to join the Fire Explorers? And I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
But it said get a pager, and I just wanted a cool pager. So so I joined over there, and the rest is history. I fell in love with it. We lived in Southwall with my parents, so I joined Southwall and just fell in love with it.
Bring me back to when you first started here at age 14.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell were you thinking coming in here?
I wasn't sure really what I was getting into, to be honest with you. And then it was a hard transition to come from West Belmar to District 1 and to come over here because
Right.
these were like the big bad guys from the South End. So I was really nervous about that coming as a 16-year-old, and all the senior guys here were intimidating.
Right.
So when I did do that, it was rough in the beginning, but best decision I ever did in my life.
Did you find that back then more difficult to get accepted by the
without a doubt.
by the brothers in the
Yeah.
house? It wasn't easy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now there was no like harassment back then.
Right,
it was
right.
just you dealt with it, and that's how you earn your keeps.
All right, cool.
I always tell a funny story. Monday nights is our drill nights, and the guys would stay here and drink after all the older members, and I couldn't drink because we were very strict about that. And they would leave here at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they'd say, "All right, clean it up," and I'd have to clean up all the dishes and the glasses, and you just did it because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So that's how you earn your keeps.
The way it should be.
Yep. Pedal my bicycle to the firehouse for the next call and get booted off the truck. And
Right.
that's the way it was.
Right, but that's how it should be, and that's how most places really worked.
Right.
So you're a fire explorer, and then you obviously went to the fire academy.
Yep. I went to Monmouth County Fire Academy.
Okay.
It was class 52.
There you go. So it's a shout out to Class 52 if you're part of that, right?
Yeah. I don't have any pictures, so if you have any, let me know. Yeah, so it was 13 Saturdays, I think I did, and a lot different than it is now because I'm an instructor too now. So
good.
It's so different.
Right.
And it rained on our final day, so we didn't really do much.
Right.
So, it was a good experience, though.
So actually, that brings me. I'm glad you brought that up. It brings me to the next point. I didn't know you were a fire instructor. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that you were doing it, which we'll talk about later.
Yep.
So tell me what have you taken away from when you went to the fire academy to what you're doing now? What changes would you say you make?
Well, the curriculum we follow is much better than what it was back then.
Right.
And the mandatory hands-on time you have to have on tool time and stuff. The biggest thing that I do when I teach, and I teach in Middletown, which is a great group of guys.
Right.
We're real-world guys, right? So you can do the book as much as you want, but when you get in the burn building and you're doing, you're cutting the roof or whatever the case may be, it's real-world experience, which is going to help you in the next step. So
Right.
That's really my goal as an instructor, is to try to give these guys a little bit of when they're in that situation, like, I remember what he said about this, or look out for that, or
Right.
And I don't know everything. I'm just sharing a little bit of what I've learned over the years.
And it's a gift to be able to give to others what you've learned.
Yeah, it's rewarding.
And you know how it is when you first get started. We have no idea what we're doing.
No,
we think we do.
Yeah, you have no idea.
But until you're actually put in that situation, and again, you can read a book and you could be a great book firefighter. There's plenty of them out there.
Right.
You know,
definitely.
but you really find out what people are truly about once you see them,
absolutely.
put to task.
Yep. When the stress is on and they got to remember, what they've learned or anything, that's when it counts.
So you're past chief here at Southwall,
Yep.
which in my opinion is a feather in your cap. This is a well-known, well-established, well-respected fire department.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I know that you being chief, that to me means something. You didn't just walk into this; you've certainly earned it.
Sure.
So good job.
Thank you.
Good job for your accomplishment.
Thank you.
You graduate the fire academy. You're a firefighter here. I know the drill because I've been in your shoes, and it's you're trying to get accepted. You try to get as much as you can from the senior guys.
Yeah.
What was it? You became a lieutenant, right?
I became second lieutenant when I was 21.
Okay.
So way too young.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, we would have like 3-4 guys running for the position. It wasn't really just, we need to fill the second lieutenant spot, so you're going to run. So I ran twice. I lost the first time, and then I ran again. And I got to be second lieutenant.
And that sucks, by the way, right? When you're running for something and you really want it and you lose, you're like,
it's horrible.
Man, that sucks. It's
Yeah.
but it's a good reality check too.
It's yeah. So I won the second time.
Good.
Did lieutenant for 3 years, and then I moved to captain. I skipped first lieutenant, and I went to captain. I was captain for 3 years. I'm trying to think. I was in the line for 13 years total.
Okay, good.
So I did 3 years as captain, and that was my favorite. Captain's the best spot.
Everyone I interview says that to me.
Captain's
Yep.
the best thing. Deputy chief was good, but I was ready to be chief.
Right.
But the transition was I just had to be deputy chief first.
Right.
And then I became chief, and the first 2 years were not good.
Elaborate on that.
Because I was this is the way I always said it was when you become a regular member in a fire company, you got to earn that.
Right.
You get your blue 3 here, and then you got to prove yourself.
Right.
When you become lieutenant, same thing. You get the white shield, but you got to prove yourself. When you get to chief, you're like, all right, I'm the chief now, but it doesn't work that way. It's when the guys accept you as chief.
100%.
Right. So you could walk around with the white helmet and the car and call command at the toaster oven fires, but it's not until the guys accept you as chief, and that was a hard thing for me to understand because I was also 26 years old. So
Wow, it's pretty young. To be chief,
too young,
especially here.
Yeah. And we get some shit here, so
Yeah.
It was too young.
Right.
So by the time it matured me in the position of fire chief, it also matured me as a man. But I had to learn that I wasn't really the chief until the guys accepted me as the leader of the organization. So
Yeah, I'll speak personally on that. That's just the way it is, bro. You could like you just said, you just couldn't have said any better. You can wear a white hat, you can drive a fancy car, and you can say you're chief, but until those guys on the rig who are getting off the rig respect you,
right,
and not just your hat,
right,
that's when you're really succeeding in what you're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's important for a lot of people to understand. And at 26, I look at you at 26 years old. I mean, you're obviously in good shape. You want to be inside the fire building, and now you're 26 years old, standing outside a command, going, "Man, I want to be inside. I want to be inside there." But now I'm stuck here.
And that's a very hard thing to do, is be the first one out of fire, and not do anything.
Right.
Which you're doing a lot in the command.
Of course, right.
But not,
right. I'm not taking it away from it. Sure.
Right. But not being able to go in and pull. You got to trust your guys and trust the training that they're going to pull the hose line right and do whatever they got to do. So, but constantly proving yourself as chief.
Right.
Over 7 years, I was constantly proving myself, and the constant. I don't want to say battles, but just every day. It's every day. It's constant. It's constant anxiety about what's happening next, and I was just burnt out. I did a lot when I was chief and had a lot of great accomplishments, and was just burnt out.
Let me ask you, how many times did you leave here after dealing with and putting out fires? I mean, here. How many times did you leave here, get in your truck and go, "What am I doing?
Oh my God.
What am I doing?" Right?
I can't even tell you how many times. And now that I'm getting married this year in October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm like, you know what? This is a great year to start fresh.
Yep. I'm sure she's not mad about that,
No,
right?
not at all. Not at all. Because it wears. It
Yeah, it
just
takes a
wears
lot away
on
from you. Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
And like you said, you get in the and you're like, I can't do this anymore. You know,
Right.
what am I doing?
So when you get like that, right, bro? You're leaving here and you're like, what am I doing this for? I mean, these guys aren't respecting what I'm putting into this. I'm not getting paid for this. This is all on my time.
Yep.
I'm stressed out. I'm taking out on other people. I'm sure you did. You
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
mean to, but you do.
Yep.
Because
absolutely.
I did myself. What brings you back? What gets you back to where you need to be?
I think just that, you know, everything goes up and down, right? So I looked at this, unfortunately, I kind of looked at this was that these people are not my friends, right? I know who my friends are, and the people who are giving me the most problems are not my friends. So I am in this for the reasons I know are the right reasons. I could look myself in the mirror every single day. And that was one of the biggest things was if I make a decision, I need to live with that decision, and I need to look in the mirror every day and know that this is why I made that decision, and I could justify that to anybody.
Right.
It's your opinion whether you think that's right or wrong, but and just understand that I know why I'm doing this, and the passion that I have for it, and I'm trying to make it a better place. Like you said, it's a highly respectable place.
It is.
And you know, we did a lot of good here, and I can't do that. You know, I can't take credit for that myself. The members are
Right.
the guys who really did it. So, you know, you have to give credit where credit's due, and you have to keep the people who are just
The naysayers.
Yeah, poisonous fruit.
We'll be nice and
you
say
know?
the naysayers.
Yeah. So the poison, you have to keep that
Yep.
at bay. And that's
And listen, every organization is going to have your toxic people.
absolutely.
You know, it's just what happens. I don't think it's always done facetiously, but I think sometimes people just lose their sight of what's important.
Right.
And you know that bullshit starts to happen.
I think they need, like, if stuff's going too quiet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They need a little something to,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I reasoned with it.
You'll notice the busier houses have less drama.
Oh yeah.
You know, because you don't have time for it. You know, the houses that are not as busy as others, they
Right.
seem to have more inside bullshit going
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
So good. So you became chief at a pretty young age, 26
Yeah.
years old. That to me, that's pretty young. Obviously, you took a lot away from being a chief of a company, especially disrespected. Which, again, I can't say enough that this is it's an intimidating house. You know, coming in here and seeing the apparatus and how clean everything is, and how obviously how squared away it is. I know the reputation of South Wall.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about you through the research, and this was not always a volunteer house, correct?
We started. It was always volunteer.
I apologize. I meant this wasn't. This was all volunteer at one time, and now it's not,
Yeah.
correct? So
we had a career firefighter here.
Okay.
Who started about 13 years ago. One guy.
right,
7:30 to 3:30.
was a chauffeur.
He was just kind of whatever.
Okay,
If he drove, he drove. If he was on the rig, he was on the rig. So we decided. Well, I decided to push for a career engine because we needed daytime people, and
Right.
it wasn't because guys were choosing not to show up. I went through this whole big study with all of our members of why are you not coming? Is it because of work? Is it because you just don't want to? It was either work, childcare, you know, whatever.
right,
So I pushed for the commissioners to hire 2 more guys, which we did. So we made that firefighter career lieutenant and hired 2 more guys. So now that we have a career engine, 7:30 to 3:30 Monday through Friday, and I was in charge of that for the year. And we signed a shared service agreement with District 1 with Bill Newberry, actually the guy who
okay.
to assist them on their calls during the day, Monday through
That's
Friday.
first
with our
alarm.
engine.
First
Yep.
alarm assignment. Okay.
Yep. Any call they go on, our engine goes and
Nice.
helps them. So it was like a huge step
Sure,
in Wall
sure.
Township.
Yeah.
In the area, really. So very proud of that.
Yeah, you should be. That's a good deal, man.
Yeah. So we're looking to hire another guy this year, probably.
Cool.
That was budgeted. So it's exciting, you know. And it was a transition
Right.
because we hired 2 of our volunteers.
And they're no longer volunteers, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to be inactive, exempt from
Right,
the
right.
company. So it was a transition, big transition, but it was needed. You know, we have to do what we got to do to answer fire calls. The days of going on a fire call with one guy,
Yeah, you
you
can.
can't do that anymore.
So looking back at what you've accomplished, you know, being, you know, a person that started that program, Are you happy with the outcome?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things was when I was chief was that if I'm at work and I can't go to a call, that I know I got 3 guys with a head on their shoulders to handle it.
Right.
You know, so it was huge.
It is a relief for you as a chief of the department. You're in charge of everything.
Yep, I got 8 hours where I can relax. You know, so it was great, and it's going great. And
how difficult was it to bridge the gap between the whole, you know, volunteer and career aspect in one department, a combination house? Because let's face it, I work in a combination department. I'm telling you right now, it's an always revolving challenge to make sure everything goes right.
It was a challenge a little bit, but the guys knew we needed it.
Right.
So we weren't taking anything away from them. It was more of like, okay, you know, this is what we got to do. So.
Right.
But I think there is a gap between them, the career staff now, and the volunteers, which it could go very bad or it could improve. So we'll just have to see.
Well, it's incumbent upon these guys to make that transition better.
Right.
You know, everybody's doing the same job, and you know, it has to be cohesive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, good.
But you know, you never know what the future holds.
But it's a new program too.
Exactly.
So it's going to have its hurdles, you know, coming out of the gate.
Exactly.
All right, good. So being a combination department, you know, there's always an engine on the road. So what's the dynamic of South Wall? How do you guys operate?
So we started box alarms.
Okay.
Which, when I was chief, we started that in the township. So any smoke or fire in a building, we go to a box alarm automatically, which brings all 3 districts.
And these are all Wall Township districts?
Yep.
Okay.
District 1 is West Belmar, 2 is Glendola.
Okay.
And 3 is us. So.
Right.
So that started, which was another relief. You know, you got guys on the road.
Right.
And they will. We use e-dispatch to see who's responding. So if there's another guy coming, they'll wait for a 4th guy. If it's, you know, fire with entrapment or something, they know to just go and get on the road. And then the volunteers will come. They'll staff the other engine or the ladder, whatever we need.
Yeah.
And then just work cohesively. But the chief, you know, the volunteer chief's in charge.
Right.
So we made him career lieutenant. So our captain, deputy chief, and chief are above him. They'll run the incident, and he'll be, you know, sort of operations or whatever. So.
Right. What's the career lieutenant's responsibilities daily? Is he in charge? Obviously, he's in charge of the crew.
The fire commissioners now. No, what we made was they answer EMS calls too. They answer ALS, any ALS call in District 1, in District 3. So they're always on the road, but you know, daily chores around the firehouse, cleaning the trucks. They do truck checks on all the trucks, all the equipment. They run all the saws, all of our extrication stuff. You know, so they're like a huge part that goes on that guys don't know they do.
Right.
That like when they pull a saw, it starts. You know, that was because.
Well, that's why I asked, because you know, I don't think a lot of people understand. You know, what actually goes on. It's not like people. Well, I think there's some misconception that people are sitting on the lawn, you know, a chair.
No,
watching TV.
Definitely,
and that's not the
that
case.
doesn't happen here.
Right.
And you know, like I said, when you pull a saw here or extrication, it starts.
Right.
And if it doesn't start, you know, somebody's going to chuck it across the lawn, and that. In the 18 years, I don't remember that really ever happening. So,
good.
They're like you said, a big part of what goes on when at 3 a.m. a guy starts a saw and it starts, or it's filled with fuel.
Right.
It didn't just happen.
The ferry didn't come and take care of it.
Yeah.
That's good. So Chief, the reason I brought you on the show is, you know, I know you were involved in an incident that affected you personally.
Yep.
And you know, like I told you when we spoke, you know, this show is about my show is about individuals. My show is about, you know, getting to meet people like yourself, and I've been very fortunate. All the guests I've had have all bought into what I'm doing and appreciate that people want to hear these stories, bro.
Right.
They do, and I think it's important. I think it's really important that the new generation firefighters, and you know what I'm talking about, right? And I don't mean any disrespect. I just mean it's different. Definitely. Would you agree it's different?
Absolutely different.
I think they need to hear these things and know that there's a lot more goes into this. We don't just come and show up on the truck and just go. Like there's lots is involved. Why don't you tell me about this incident you were involved in?
So, 2015, September, I think it was September 15th, 2015. It was Wildwood weekend, which I hate Wildwood, by the way.
Okay.
It's just a drinking event, which I don't really drink that much. So, we had a structure fire, which was a box alarm at 1 o'clock in the morning in District 1, so the other side of town. So I'm driving there. Their chief didn't check on the air because he was in Wildwood. I check on, said I was going. The deputy chief from District 2 signed on, said they were going. While I was responding, the PD said, we can see a guy in the back door, but we can't get in because of the smoke. So I said, okay. Well, I was like, here we go, you know.
Yeah, you got a job.
This
man.
is it.
Yeah.
So when I said that, I realized that I was going to be the first one there because the deputy chief from District 2 coming from Howell.
Right.
So I knew I was going to be the first one there. So, and it's funny, I always kept my pack in the back of my chief's truck with the mask on, and I was like, oh, if I ever need it, I'll just be able to throw it on. And I was like, crap, now I really need it. So,
Right.
So I get there. Long story short, I get there. There was a little fire in the front. Was on the couch. The windows, the doors were all intact. I ran around back. Everybody's yelling and screaming. You know how it is.
Yeah.
I put my gear on, run around back. I'm going in the back door. Smoke. I actually didn't even have my gloves on. That's how not hot it was. So I'm standing up, walking in, put my gloves on, and I get to this guy. He's probably 350 pounds, shorts around his ankles, no other clothes on, and he looked like he was alive.
Right.
So I kind of looked down at him, and I was like, he looks like he's alive. I yelled to the cop, and he was like, all right, I'll drag him out then. So he was in a hallway between the kitchen and the bedrooms, so I couldn't turn him around. So I could grab his underneath his arm. So I grabbed his legs and slipped off of him because he was like a boiled chicken, you know. So
Yeah.
the skin was coming off. He was bleeding now.
Right.
So I slipped off of him. I went back and got his legs underneath him again. Tried to pull him again, but then, all blood and stuff. So with that, I went around to his head because I was going to get webbing out of my pocket, and just got hit with like such a sudden change of heat I've never felt before.
Right. So your conditions are getting worse.
Oh yeah. And you could see. Well, I'll tell you after, but I do a class. It's called "Are You Ready?" and this is basically what I talk about. I have video of it, and we'll go into that later. But I'll finish what I was saying. So the heat hit me. I was like, something's not right here. I had my back to the fire at this point, and I was like, well, if my ears are burning, this guy's going to be dead. And I was like, all right. So I just went out the back door, and as I came around the back door, I was blowtorching out the front window. So obviously that front window let loose.
Right.
And that was kind of really it. I sat in the driveway. I had blood and stuff all over me, so they were helping me get my stuff off. And that was really it. I was kind of in a daze. But one of my members came over to me after and said, "Oh, bro, did you get a safe? I heard you got a safe." And that hit me like a bag of shit. And I'll never forget that to this day. And what I talk about in my class is how I processed that incident. And I processed it very poorly.
Right.
So the class is about mental health for first responders.
And before you go into that, I think it's important for people to understand that you said he was 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's 300 pounds dead weight.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big difference, bro.
Like,
you know?
I couldn't even move.
Right.
I couldn't even
No matter
move.
what you can do, because, there's going to be people that watch us and they go, well, man, if I was in that situation, I would get super strength and I would just be able to pull this guy out, and 300 pounds really isn't that. That's 300 pounds dead weight.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
It's just not possible.
And everybody, and it's something we talk about too after my
Right.
class. I have had some critics that say to me, "Oh, well, you just want to get up there and be in front of a class or tell your story or whatever. Whatever. If you don't like my story, then don't listen to me. You want to make fun of me, whatever." I was, days or weeks away from being an alcoholic and killing myself after that incident. 3 months after that incident.
So when you say that, and if you don't want to go into this, that's fine.
No.
But when you say that to me, you kind of just skip by that. That means that your family life is messed up.
Oh.
Right. That means you're literally sitting in a bar somewhere, or you're drinking way too much, right? More than you normally
Disaster.
would at all. Right?
I would leave. So I'll tell you, I was in a relationship with a girl for 4 years before that. We made it till January. This was in September. I made it till January. We broke up.
Yeah, she had enough.
No doubt in my mind that played into it.
Yeah.
But, there were other reasons.
Right.
Now I'm with my beautiful fiance. So.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, no doubt. And a huge part of what I talk about is everything happens for a reason. It's just how you process what goes on. So after, the weeks after the incident, I was drinking almost 3-4 times a week, which is a lot for me. But when I would drink, it would be like blackout drunk.
Right.
I would be blackout drunk and go home and just relive that incident. Just relive, like, what if I did this? Now everybody thinks I'm like, I'm supposed to be this fire chief, this fire instructor. I talk about firefighter survival. I can't even get a guy out of a fire. Like, what kind of fire chief are you?
Right.
Like, my whole reputation was at stake, and I screwed it up. And, maybe is that arrogance, or is that just the way I processed the incident? So, drank, relived the incident, thought about, if I killed myself right now, what would they say at my funeral? What would they say at my wake?
Yeah.
Who would come?
Right.
So when I talk in my class, and I go in it a lot, it's a lot more passionate, and
of course.
But it was, I was at like a crossroads in my life after that, and we talked earlier, and I said it's not just the one incident. I processed that incident very poorly.
Right.
However,
it was ones before
correct,
before
that you processed poorly.
I know exactly what you're talking about 100% because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's an incident I was involved in, almost the same thing, not that incident, but a similar situation. And I'm like, you feel helpless.
Yeah.
And then after you walk away from it and you're going, man, I probably could have did this. I probably could have did that. And then you try to like, oh, well, I did everything I could. But the reality is it's always here.
Oh, it's a mental battle.
To this day,
it's
you
a
still
mental battle.
Right.
I still do.
Of course.
I still to this day said, I could have used my weapon. I could have done this. I teach guys to do this. And it's just a battle. And you can never go back to that day. And that's what we have to understand is that you can't go back to that. You can't do it again.
Right.
This is it. So you either learn from it, and what I'm doing is sharing my story with guys. I'm not up there telling you I got burned, I almost died. That's not what it's about. It's about I almost died from everything else.
Right.
Everything
outside of the fire.
Correct.
Right.
So, how many fatal accidents did we go to? How many times we cut people, how many times we cut dead people out of cars?
Right.
And not have a critical incident stress debriefing.
We just didn't do it back then.
Yeah, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, you got done with the incident. You're like, and you talk amongst each other like that sucked.
Right.
That sucks. And
then let's go have a beer.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
That's like the worst thing you could do.
Yeah. And everyone I talk to, bro, says the same thing. Is like, after you see something you really shouldn't see, but we do. I mean, this is what we signed up for. I understand that. So you're going to see certain things, but after you see something that's traumatic. Everyone has the same reaction. They talk about it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then no one talks about it anymore.
Right.
Right. You don't talk about it anymore, and then you end up having a beer together or something, and then you start talking about it months later, and then a year later, and then 3 years later. The reason we're still talking about it 3 years later is because we're not over it.
Exactly.
Right.
And one of the things I learned after I went to go speak to somebody, and now with my new fiance, is that I am very shut down, and there's a point where, like, if we're having an argument, and this is talking about home life, if we're having an argument, I'll just shut down and have no emotion. And she's like, how can you do that? And I'm like, that's how I live my life, now that I understand it.
Right.
That's how I lived my life for 18 years before this, was, especially when I was chief, was you're not allowed to have emotion. You can't have emotion.
Right.
You can't be...
that's a perception anyway.
Yeah. And forgive me for being terrible, but you cutting a dead person out of a car, or a dead family out of a car, you can't be like, oh my, crying, or like it doesn't happen.
Right.
So you go into shutdown mode,
mm-hmm.
and that's how you continue with your daily routine as firemen, especially as volunteers. That's what I talk about. You're sleeping in your bed, and then 5 minutes later, you're in a life or death situation. Somebody's life's hanging in the balance, and then 2 hours later, you got to go back to regular life. That's like that. Your body doesn't work like that.
I can speak to that personally, where just what you said, you're in a dead sleep, right? Dog ass tired. You finally get your head on the pillow, and you feel like you're sleeping, and you're in a dead sleep, dreaming about God knows what, and then now you got to get up, get your shit together, decide whether or not you're going to pee or not before you leave, right? Because that's always the always the pivotal moment, right? So then you're out the door, and now your heart's racing. Now the deal. If the dispatcher's amped up, you're going to get amped up because that's just how it works. Now you're on the rig, and now you're trying to get your shit together, right? So I always think about these moments when you're getting on the rig at 3 o'clock in the morning and you just woke up. It's not like you're on duty or you're at the house and you're going to a job. I think this stands even true for career guys, because if you're in bed and you get it, now next thing you know, you're sitting in the back of a rig going to a job. Now you have to remember, is my Nomex on, right? Do I have all my gear? What's in my pockets? Like, there's a lot going on.
And you don't know what you're going to. Like even when you're there, you pull up and there's fire showing, whatever. Like, you got to make these life or death decisions, and so. It was in a movie, and I hate to use the cliche of you got to be 100% 100% of the time. You can't get a 95 in this job. Right. Volunteer career, I don't care.
I use backdraft lines, so it's not more cheesy than that, right?
You can't get a 95 here.
Right.
95 doesn't do it. So you got to be 100%. And then what I talk about also in my class is how many times you get up and do that, and then it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Do you understand what kind of stress that puts on your body? And I didn't. And then I did after that day, because it's not just that one incident. Because I've seen dead people. I've seen bad things. We go to the Parkway. We were going to the Parkway in probably 2004 once a weekend, cutting families out of cars.
Man, I've been there a million times on the Parkway. It's
a disaster.
It sucks. It really does suck. Yeah.
And like you said before, you don't process that, and how much overtime. Everybody's bucket fills up, and how much overtime can you take? The
best thing I ever took a class a couple years ago on supervision, an 80-hour supervisor school, and one of the instructors said something to me, it sticks with me to this day, and it was, he said, when you start your career, no matter what it is, in emergency services, you have a basket, and every bad thing that happens to you, throw an egg cord in the basket, right? And then you're having a bad day at work. One of your coworkers, you're not getting along. Right. Throw another egg in the egg in a basket, right? So sooner or later, these egghorns or eggs, they overflow, right? Because there's no more room in the basket, and that's when the bad shit happens. That's when you start drinking. That's when you're, God knows, you start gambling, or your lifestyle changes completely.
Right.
Everything you used to love, you don't love anymore.
Right.
You notice, all the signs of PTSD, and that's, I think, when people need to recognize that, PTSD is a real thing.
And one of the things that I said when I went to go talk to somebody was, don't tell me I have PTSD. I'm not a Marine or a war fighter in Afghanistan. Like, those guys are getting their legs blown off. Their friends are getting their, and the guy was like, whoa, hold on. He's like, there's a lot of different kinds of PTSD. He's like, you could have PTSD from, being sexually assaulted but so PTSD is very different than what you think it is. And once I kind of understood that, of what you just described, of you start drinking, you do this, you do that, I started to realize, like, okay, wow, I got a problem here. I got a real problem here, and it could have been real bad. If I didn't get help, I'd just be a drunk, probably, got fired, been in jail. Who knows? But
right.
It wasn't good.
But you did, bro. You did get help, and I think that's important for people to see and understand that people aren't alone.
No, absolutely.
The same things you're feeling are the same things other people are feeling, but maybe not vocalizing it.
Absolutely.
Who knows? You can go to one incident and that might be enough for you.
Right.
I mean, you and I we have similar experiences. So, for us, just in talking to you, it builds up.
Sure.
You see one thing and then another thing, and I'll add to that. A couple days ago, the brothers out in Ocean County, South Jersey, had a bad crash, a fatal, early in the morning, and I was on my way to work. And as I'm driving past, I see the engine. I see they're done. Obviously, it's a fatal, and they're just waiting to remove the body. But what I noticed is all those firefighters that were there were like, leaning against the guardrail, heads down. couple more kind of like looking into the field. You know, a couple of them were side by side. You know what they were thinking, bro.
Sure.
You know what they just saw.
Right. And then they got to go home.
Right.
And deal with their family, their kids.
Yeah,
their
they got to go to
job.
work.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
that's what people don't really understand.
Right.
You know, I mean, if there's any, non-firefighters watching the show right now, that's what I don't think they don't get that. They think, most of them think the firemen put out fires, They're not thinking about the crashes and the gas explosions that, all the stuff we see and we're involved in, right?
And it's, it's stuff that I talk about in my class, and I'll plug my class if you don't mind.
No, of course.
It's Are You Ready? And it's I have a website. It's firstrespondermentalhealth.com.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the video so that people see it. Yep.
So I come and do a seminar for you. It's a motivate. I talk about what we just talked about in detail, video, and then I talk about signs, and then sort of a motivational thing of, how to get your mind right and how to understand it. And then once you understand it, move past it. It's really a good class. I've had guys come up to me after, like in tears, telling me how much, like, wow, I really related to that, or thank you so much for sharing your story.
Right.
And that's that's what it's all about. I'm not here to be a millionaire. You're not doing this to be a millionaire.
No,
it's to share.
I'm not making anything.
It's to share your story and try to help somebody, because there's people out there who need it.
Absolutely. And how rewarding is that for you? At the end of your seminar, someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, man, you really affected me," and they're crying. I mean, we don't. First of all, we don't cry in front of each other, right? That's not what we do.
Nope.
So when that happens and you see that, obviously there's a party that says, "Man, this is all. It's all worth it."
Absolutely.
Right.
And it definitely is. And I've done it a lot. I do it for all hands fire training, and Don Caluso's helped me with a lot of stuff with doing the presentation. So. I owe a lot to him of how to, because he's really good at putting it all together, right? I'm not good at that. I wrote a couple articles for fire engineering about that.
Good for you.
And I'm not a writer, and he helped me a lot. I sent him to review it, so just to give him a shout out. But knowing people,
say who he is and where he's from.
Don Caluso. He's owns All Hands Fire Training. He's a super great guy.
Yeah, I heard a lot of great things about that program, man.
It's great. He's great. He really helped me put that class together. And write my article, and he's a great guy. It's just he's one of the guys, like we were talking about. There's somebody out there who like needs help or whatever.
Right.
He's one of those guys you want to know that, like, if you called him, he'd be like, yeah, I'll be right there. Whatever you need.
That's great. You need people like that in your life.
Yeah,
man.
no
You
doubt.
do.
Yeah, there's a few people like that in my life that, like I said, I know who my friends are, and everybody else is, you're just over here.
Yeah.
So.
It's tough to accept, though, wouldn't you? Don't you agree? When you find out that the people especially people you thought were like, Team John.
Oh, it's devastating.
And then when you find out they're not, because I've been in that situation. I have people in my life for years that I respect these people, and I value what they think. And then of course when they're shitting on you all the time, you're saying, and then eventually you have to look in the mirror and go, what am I doing?
It's
I'm done worrying about what you think, and you're a toxic person. I'm walking away.
Yeah, and talking about bringing it home with you is
I thought that was the toilet, and I was gonna say that is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Someone just flushed a toilet.
Yeah. We were talking about bringing stuff home with you,
right.
And Stephanie, my fiance, she's been great with it, because during making the career staff and doing the policies, and we made a special ops team, and like all the stuff I brought it home to her, and I never realized that I really did carry that on my shoulders, and it's something for chiefs going into to remember, is that, like you said, it's devastating.
Yeah.
When you find out that guys are talking shit behind you.
It is. Yeah, absolutely is.
And like you said, you can't show emotion. We don't cry. We don't do this, but somebody's getting the brunt of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's probably,
unfortunately, it's the people that you care about.
And
they're the people most close to you.
Right. So it's something to really take away and remember that yes, it is volunteer, but it's really a career, and it takes the same tolls on you as a career, and sometimes worse.
I just had the interview with Captain Friedman from Passaic,
right?
And in his interview, he said something that stuck with me, and I thought it was great. He said that what people don't understand is, the career guys, there's always some kind of, not always, but there has been rifts between the volunteer and the career thing. It's always going to be there.
Sure.
But he says that he was a captain in a career house. He used to say to his guys all the time, he said, don't forget something. We're on a shift. When our 24 is over, we're going home and we're going to our families, we're doing our things. The volunteers, it's always. Yeah. It's 24/7, 365. So, they're catching work all week long.
Right.
24 hours of the day,
right.
if they're around. If you're on vacation for a week and you're home, you have a staycation. You're going to calls, right? You're going to all the jobs. So, and he said that, and I was like, he's right.
Yeah, that's huge.
I don't think people will get that. Like,
right.
You're never really turning it off.
Right.
And especially as a fire chief, are you able to turn it off?
That's what I was just going to say. You're never, and going into it, I didn't realize how much you can't turn it off, and it's constant.
Yeah.
And it's not even the when the pager goes off, it's the anxiety of waiting for the pager to go off.
Yeah.
And the wife wants to go out to dinner, so you're like, all right, I got to keep my phone. Text my deputy, like, hey, I'm going out to dinner. Like, and now my TJ is like one of my best friends, and he took over as chief here, and he'll do great.
Are you excited for him, bro?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
He'll do great. Yeah. He's been under me through the whole line. So
cool.
But like, I think it was maybe 2 days ago, he said to me, man, you did this for 7 years. And I was like, you're just getting started, man. You're just getting started.
Yeah.
And it's until you're in that seat,
right?
You don't understand. You just don't understand.
People want to be in the seat, but
right.
Then when they're there, I'm sure it's got to be a lot on you.
Right.
And
I talk about in my art, I wrote an article for Fire Engineering, kind of what we talked about before, is the new generation.
Oh, yeah.
And just being voted into the position because it's his turn.
Right.
Well, when you do your turn and it's a year, that's not the same. I know exactly what you're saying. It's not the same.
Right, right.
And I don't want to be arrogant or anything, but 7 years in a department like this, we do 400 or 500 calls. Last year we did over 600 calls. It's so much to handle. The
volunteer company I'm in, we were almost 700 calls last year, and it's just
ridiculous.
It was like 681 or something. That's a lot of calls.
Ridiculous.
It's really, if you sit back and think about how many freaking calls that is. I mean, sometimes six a day.
Yeah. How many times you miss dinner, you miss a date, or you miss whatever. Like, it's just, it's so much to handle.
So what advice do you have for the new chief coming in?
A lot. Now, he's going to do great.
Right.
He's a great fireman. For any new chief, I would say, don't take anything home with you. Don't take anything personal.
Easier said than done.
Oh my God! It took me 7 years to realize that.
Right.
Don't like we talked about it, and I said it 3 or 4 times. Leave the people over here.
Mm-hmm.
You know who it is. Any decision you make, look yourself in the mirror, and this is why I did that decision, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to say you did that decision for the right reasons.
Right.
We have a member here who always says, "Do the right thing," and that's just the truth. You just have to do the hardest part about doing the right thing is doing
it. Yeah, and they always say you should act as if you're always on camera, even when you're not.
Well, nowadays, forget it. I mean, everybody's got a phone or they're watching. Everybody's watching. Everybody knows what's going on behind the scenes, and you got to make your decisions and live and die by the sword. And that's, if you do that as chief, you could step away. Like some people aren't happy with me. I can step away and say, listen, I did the right things for the right people at the right times.
Right.
Did I make mistakes? Of course.
Right.
But my decisions were not like malice decisions,
Looking back at your term as chief, 7 years is a long time. What would you have done differently at the beginning? What would you say we would have done differently at the beginning? Because you said the hardest part was the first year, right?
Yeah.
First 2 years.
Because I didn't realize that I didn't earn anything yet. I earned my spot in this company as a member in the company, and then I was a good captain and everything. But when you get the gold helmet, the white helmet and the gold front, you didn't earn that yet. Because the way our elections work everywhere, January 1, you get it.
Yeah.
And you get the gold badge. You didn't earn it. There's a very big difference.
Absolutely.
There's a very big difference of earning that. And that's why I say, I call them T-shirt and hat wearers. Like the young guys now, they walk around with these T-shirts and the hats and they're paid the radio straps and like, are you doing this for the right reasons? You know, like that's the question I always want to ask is.
And when you're going to find out is when they're in a situation like you were in, and they're in that hallway and they're pulling out that body.
Yeah.
That's when the rubber meets the road.
Oh yeah.
And you're gonna truly find out if people are doing this for the right reasons. I mean, a buddy of mine always says, T-shirts and tattoos, and
that's the same thing.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. And we spoke a little bit before the show, and we were laughing about some of the new generation and the way things are headed. But it's a little challenging when you're looking at you're watching Facebook and YouTube, and you got these guys that are starting these tactics shows and stuff, and they've been on a year.
Yeah, and that's the same issue of the article that I wrote is there's nobody earns anything anymore. I used to ride my bicycle to the firehouse for calls in the middle of the night and then get booted off the truck.
Me too.
And then if I made the truck,
I'm so glad you said that. I thought I was the only one.
No, God no. And then if I made the truck, I would get yelled at.
Right.
Because I remember I would take it. I would take a Halligan bar. And then the guy who was captain at the time would be like, what are you doing? What are you doing with that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just grab the tool. And then he would, yell at me like, oh my God, I can't win.
Yeah.
If you did that to these guys now, they're like,
oh yeah, they need timeout.
I'm not going to show up now. So it's a whole different world we live in.
So how do you combat that? How do you combat that as a chief with these new guys that have that attitude? Like, what are you doing?
I've said this everywhere I go. I've taught with All Hands. I taught with Middletown. I've been all over. Anywhere you go, the senior men dictate the culture of the firehouse. It's not the chief, right?
We never met each other before,
no.
Right? Now you're gonna laugh because you're gonna see I've said exactly what you just said to
really?
Me. Yes.
That's weird.
It's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as senior men.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. What my job now as being chief, not being chief, is getting on the rig and making sure the guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The chief now has enough to worry about.
Yeah.
Running the fire and talking on the radio. My job is to make sure they get off the truck and they know what they should be doing.
Cultivating.
Right.
Cultivating, yep.
Right.
Dude, that's an important job, bro.
Anything that you got to do, and this is another tip for a chief that I wish I knew, is that when you plant a seed, right, you plant a pumpkin seed, whatever you want to plant, you got to water it, you got to give it the right soil and nutrients, and it takes time to grow. Right. Little sprout. That's the same thing at the firehouse. If you come in and you're like, I got this new patch, we're making a special ops team. Everybody would be like, whoa.
Yeah.
We had a few incidents where we needed to do that, and I was like, all right, we're at a crossroads here. We're going to do it or we're not. And you got to plant it and water it and and that's every idea that you have as a leader is you got to work with the ideas and ease it into the men.
Agree.
And your job as a senior man is to, hey, that's what the chief wants us to do. That's what we're doing. He wants us to get off the truck with our pack and our hoods on. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, and you're inspiring others.
Yes.
It's not. And listen, let's be realistic. There's senior guys watching us right now. They're going, bro, he did his time as chief. He can come here. He can get in the back of the rig. He can sit back there
and do nothing. Right.
Or you can do the opposite, like you're talking about, and you're gonna grab that kid by the collar and go, hey, you got to do it this way.
Right. And my job now is not to take the nozzle.
Right.
My job is to be the backup man, or
right.
to be the officer when there's no officer there, and so that the chief has somebody to rely on, and the younger members have somebody to rely on, and too much that's not happening across the fire service.
You're absolutely right.
And it's, what it is, I don't think it's any, I used to get angry with the senior guys at our places, they don't show up. Guys just don't have, they're working 2 jobs, they're burnt out. They've been doing this for 20, 30 years now, and they're in the position that I'm at where, like, I had a rough time. Maybe they've been having a rough time and nobody knows, so, like,
yeah.
You have to take all that into account, but again, like, maybe grab these guys and be like, hey, what can we do here? What can we do? If you're a young chief, talk to your senior men. What can we do to, like, get you more involved? Like, can you help me out here? Can you come to training on Monday nights and maybe you could teach them, some packaging or, get them involved.
Right, and maybe it's just because the fire service has changed so much tactically.
Yeah.
That some of the senior guys may be feeling that they're not adequate with some of the new training and some of the new, we have all these different acronyms now,
right.
and when we first got on the job doing this stuff, there was none of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember when the fast team first started, and then we called us Rick, and then we called us Rit.
Yeah.
And
they still don't know what they
want. We're gonna figure it out one day. We're actually gonna be called, and on my company, we're huge with the RIT team. We're pretty much for the whole island. So for us, we take it very seriously. We train twice a month. We take it very seriously. So, everybody wants to get on the fire company, and then they want to join the RIT team. Like, bro, slow down here.
It doesn't
slow
work
down. My problem with the fire service, I think, is that we have all these people coming in, and then they want to be on the special operations team.
Mm-hmm.
They want to jump in the seat.
You don't even know what that seat means.
I was just gonna say that. Do you even know what goes on up there?
Right.
It's not just hitting a federal queue and pinning the queue and talking on the radio.
Right. And I remember when I would get to the firehouse first and sit in the front seat because I was a senior guy. You had better be out of that front seat if you saw a senior guy pull in. If he had to knock on the door to get you out of that seat, you were getting an ass kicking.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, what do you mean I got to get out of the seat? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. You don't want to offend anybody.
That's
All right. So it's good stuff, man. And I think I think the company is very fortunate to have you in the position you're in.
Thank you.
Because you're still young.
Yeah.
To be able to be back there and be able to grab these guys, especially because you're an instructor.
Yeah,
that's huge.
I love doing it. I just love it.
Yeah.
And I thrive in the teaching, and I don't know. I just love it. I get my balls busted for teaching.
It's okay.
Whatever.
You don't think I get my balls busted for this? Are you kidding me?
This is great stuff. Because somebody's watching this and they're like, they might be low on the computer because they don't want people to hear, oh, they're watching the fire. But they're going to learn something.
They do.
Not for me. You did 8. I'm number 8 now. There's 8 people out there. I guarantee you that are going to be like, this guy's onto something. I got to tell you, everyone that I've done this with so far has come back to me and says, man, I'm so glad I did it, because at the beginning they're like, I don't know, I'm going to be on camera, and I get it. Even you when you first sat down, you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting it. This is official.
Yeah.
Headphones and everything.
Yeah, but what I get out of this is meeting people like yourself and getting people to hear your story, because I think that people need to hear that. And you know what, we can't save everybody.
Sure.
That's just reality.
Right.
But my hope is that the young firefighters that are watching us tonight see what you have to say, and again, I want you to tell us again about your seminar and how these guys can register to see your class.
Yep. So I have a website. It's firstrespondermentalhealth.com.
Okay, I'm going to put that on my link.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Are you ready? My seminar is called Are You Ready? We're doing a big one here at my firehouse on March 9th.
March 9th. How can they register for that?
Go to allhandsfire.com.
Okay.
And it's under the training section.
Awesome.
All Hands is sponsoring it. It's Mark Gregory, captain in New York City, and Bobby Eckert, captain in Camden, and myself. So it's a whole day of great guys, talking, learning, and it's going to be big.
All right,
I'm
awesome.
excited. Yeah, I'm excited to get the word out there, and I'm so happy that you text me and I could do this, because like we talked about, it's not about money.
No.
It's about getting the word out and helping each other and doing the right thing.
Well, Chief, it was great to meet you finally.
Yeah.
And I wish you a lot of success.
Thank you so much.
I hope that more and more people come to see your seminar and see what you're about. And
Thank you.
I enjoyed this conversation we had. I really did,
it was
man.
awesome.
So since you're an official alum now, you get a PintheQ patch.
Sweet.
So that was from Eagle Emblems and Graphics. They hook us up with these cool patches.
Nice.
So.
Those are awesome. Great.
Yeah, man.
I got some for you too.
Oh.
Our special ops patch.
Oh, sweet.
And our firehouse patch there.
Look at that.
This is great.
I got official patches here.
Yeah.
So this is special operations.
Yeah. We just do structural collapse.
Oh, cool.
So we got
like a TRT.
Yeah. So it's good stuff.
That's awesome. And you got the big 3 on the helmet there,
Yeah.
blue shield.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And then of course, everyone has to have a sticker for your lid, bro.
I'll throw it right on there.
It's going to be on a black helmet too.
Yeah, I love it.
That's good stuff. All right, there. Thanks. I got my paper. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And then, who's this guy over here? Who is this? This guy.
This is my boy, Zach Sussman.
Zach.
He's been with me from the start.
All right, so Zach, our boy Zach's been sitting over here watching this whole thing go down. And what was the only rule we had for him?
Don't make me laugh.
Don't make him laugh.
Great
So
job.
I appreciate not making him.
Security, so
He
nobody
was.
walked through.
Yeah. So yeah, and he also did security. If anybody came through, he wouldn't like that. So here it is. So it's episode 8 here at PintheQ Podcast. Please, if you haven't already doing this, go to our Instagram page and follow that. There's some good cats on there that are following us also and commenting on our page, which is exciting. Some really cool cats on there that have been commenting. So I'm noticing it. So thanks so much. Also, the Facebook page, which again, you could see all these links. You get to see the Chief and when his episode is going to air. And, of course, the YouTube channel, what you're watching right now. There's a little button down there. Hit the subscribe. If you hit subscribe, you'll get to see all the new shows that are coming out in the future. Again, thanks again. Chief, definitely. I wish you a lot of luck. Thanks again. I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome.
All right, this is it. Episode 8, Episode 9 coming at you. Take care. Be safe. God bless.